Good evening and welcome to Zion's Banner. Just switching things out here. And we've just got one or two other things to attend to very quickly. Like I'm going to get rid of my lower third because I don't need that anymore. It is so good to have you with us. I will be having that lower third drop off in just a second. But I want to welcome you to Zion's Banner. I thought it might be nice to have a little banner up tonight. And so, a few things coming up that are very exciting. There are two conferences, both of which I'm going to be involved in with outreaches, and I am terribly excited about those. So, I want to give you a little commercial. And if you know Vocab Malone, then he is the one who organized these and is also involved with them. I'm also going to shift that camera down just a little bit here so that you can see me a little better here. There we go. And get this in. So let me give you an this is the shameless advertising part of our show here. But I really want to go ahead and do this. I want to plug these things because they are important. Now, you may not be in the Valley, but I have a feeling a few of you are actually going to come out to Phoenix for this. So I am so excited. Let me pull that screen up, give you a second or two. There's some registration information. If you haven't registered yet, there's the actual URL for the commercial that you're going to see if this works right. This is straight off the press of Vocab. And so I'm going to go ahead and plug this here and start it.
But as for you, teach what accords with sound doctrine. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned. With sound doctrine. With sound doctrine. With sound doctrine.
All right. So that last sign's coming up. If you are not registered and you are in the Phoenix area, I do not want to step on Vocab's cool music, but you can register at www.therebornchurch/Doctrine20FB event. Or you can go to Facebook and you can go ahead and re-look at this advertisement. You also see the thing up there. I will be handling a Messianic Jew speaks on Roman Catholicism. And then another Messianic Jew named Stan Meyer, who I know, will be dealing with Jewish binitarianism and the Trinity. So that is your advertisement. If you can get here, it will be great. There's going to be some folks going out to witness at First Fridays on Friday night of the conference. I will probably join them town. And Nate is already into it. He's already registered. Good job. So there's the story in a nutshell. Do not fret because my session I will probably do as a premiere. So those who can't be here will not miss out. It will be done after the conference, and I'm trusting to have that taped, and we can do that as a premiere. I can be here, I can look at your comments, and I can have the clip playing on the other side with this new software. Some of my goals for the year include trying to up my high speed. Wouldn't that be nice? Others have to do with materials, but one of my goals, Patreon-wise, would be to see if I could find a way to up the high speed via Cox and make things a little better for everybody. And then another would be to get some materials that would greatly help me in preparing these. So now we're going to move on here. we're going to be watching Dr. Singer. Now, I want to get to this preset here. And the PowerPoint should be up. And we're going to start listening to him deal with a pastor related to Psalm 2. Now, you see a little thing down there for Proverbs 20:23. This is a key important thing in apologetics, and particularly dealing with the type of arguments that we deal with Rabbi Singer, who claims to be very, very Torah observant. So let's see how observant he is with the Tanakh and with his arguments. Proverbs 20:23 says, diverse weights are an abomination to the Lord, and dishonored scales are not good. Now, what this means is equal weights and measures. Therefore, when you make an argument, you have to actually apply the same things to your side of the argument that you're applying to the other person's side of the argument. And Rabbi Singer should be willing to do that. So we're going to see, one of the things we're going to see in this presentation is how well he really did at equal weights and measures as he talks to this pastor. So I have the clip up there already. I'm going to go to our detractor page. Yes, we have that incredible detractor page that says we do not... I'm just going ahead and making sure the sound's on. I'm going to transition. I'm going to go to part 1 here.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I just happened to be in Israel at this time. Someone I happened to meet happened to know that you were speaking. I've heard you on Israel National Radio from Sydney, Australia in the past. I listened to your interview on Way of the Master 2 nights ago. I thought you spoke very well, addressed the issues, treated the issues with the seriousness with which they ought to be treated, and I admired you for that. There's no doubt in my mind, as a Bible-believing Christian, that God will keep his promises to Abraham, Isaac, David, Moses, all of them. No doubt at all. There are Christians who say that the church has replaced Israel. Bible-believing Christians don't think like that. It's more the stream that's closer to the Catholic Church and the denominations that have come out of the Catholic Church, the Protestants. Protestants have come out of the Catholic Church, Baptists haven't, Pentecostals haven't. So they just largely don't hold to replacement theology like that. I can think of one verse that mentions the appropriate response to the Lord Jesus as the Son of God. There's a verse that says, kiss the Son, think lest he be angry. On my phone, battery's flat, I can't search for it. And can you recall that?
I think I do.
Yeah, okay.
First of all, thank you for joining us here this evening. The passage, kiss the Son, lest he be angry, is Psalm chapter 2, verse 12. Did you ever read it?
I think so.
In the Hebrew?
No.
What's your first name?
Michael.
Michael. Do you think it's possible that if you don't read it in the original Hebrew, it could be a problem?
Possible, although I've got a lot of confidence in my King James Bible.
So you're trusting 47 members of the Anglican Church who all believe in replacement. This, don't take this a bad way, I'm just making the point, just for you to consider. 47 men in good standing translated the Christian Bible into the English language in the early 17th century. All of them believed in replacement theology, and you would trust those 47 men who were clearly very far from God if they believed that God was done with the Jews over the original Hebrew text.
Okay, so they used the Masoretic Hebrew, they used the received Greek. I'm not aware of them holding to replacement theology.
The Anglican Church are very much, just right now, take my word for it, there was no John Nelson Darby in the 17th century. The Anglican Church is the Protestant denomination that is most similar in its tradition, so on, to Catholicism, they very much believed that God was done with the Jews. In fact, there were no Jews in England in 1607 or 1611 because the Jews had been expelled. Here's what I want to say to you.
Is the Hebrew different?
You have no idea what has been taken from you, the original language of Hashem. You, as a Christian, believe that the Hebrew is the language God used to convey eternal truth to the world through his prophets of blessed memory. I know we share that in common, right? So imagine you would receive a letter from Hashem, from God, right? You wouldn't want to rely on some 17th century folks coming out of Cambridge. You'd want to go, I want to read what it really says in the Hebrew. Here's the Hebrew. Nashku bar panyenaf. So nashku, bar. What does the word bar mean in Hebrew? Purity. Zabarul olo. Barul. What does barul mean? It's clear, pure. Bar means pure. Bar lev, of a pure heart. We use these words every day here in conversation.
Okay, we're moving back in just a sec. You should have the PowerPoint back up in just a second here. I'm trusting that you will. There you go. I see the PowerPoint up. Now, first of all, he's guilty of some things here. He makes a big deal about these men. First of all, I don't take his word on what the Anglican Church says because he has no degree in church history or any such thing. And so he likes to say, take my word for it. Why? He expects this man to take his word on the Hebrew. Why should he expect this man to take his word on church history? So that's okay, sort of. Let me give you a quote out of the Talmud. This is one of my favorite quotes. He sort of ignores this quote, but I want to give it to you anyway. Someone made a good comment. We'll get to it there. Yezehu chacham halo mad mikol adam. I'm being a little slow with it. I usually rattle it off. I just want to make my accent is right. Who is wise? He who can learn from all persons. And then the rest of the quote actually goes to Psalm 119. From all my teachers I have gained wisdom. Pirkei Avot says that a wise man doesn't have to agree with everybody, but he can learn from all people. And so to discount these people simply on the basis that they're English, they're from the Anglican Church, and the Anglican Church might have believed in replacement theology. We will cover replacement theology in another episode because I feel it is important to deal with. But to go ahead and just discount them as if nothing they say or did has any value is a violation of Pirkei Avot. Who is wise? You can learn from all men. So maybe Rabbi Singer should go back to Pirkei Avot and his Talmud and be a little bit more open-minded and not just simply discount a translation on the basis of the fact that certain men may have had a theology that may have become part of their translation. It may not have when they translated it. We will go ahead and deal with the reality of the situation. But I just want to make clear that he's already acted in sort of a sort of bigoted manner, in a sense, in not looking at the translation. In fact, what he is guilty of, and this is very useful to you, is something called the genetic fallacy. I'm going to put this up. It's a logical fallacy, and it's one that he really should be called on. You judge something as being good or bad on the basis of where it comes from or from where it came. Now, let me explain how this fallacy works. If a unbeliever, let's say a total reprobate, total horrible person, total reprobate of an individual who killed 16 people, says that today is Wednesday simply because he's a horrible person does not mean today is not Wednesday. That's a flawed way of thinking. So to dismiss this translation and throw out this prejudice here um, is a scattergun approach to throw things off kilter. It doesn't matter. What it matters is what the Hebrew says. Now he makes some claims, and we're going to test these claims. Uh, we're going to actually look at some canvases. We're going to look at some Hebrew, and we're going to put these claims to the test. So let's go ahead and deal with bar. Now he says bar means clean. Well, first of all, has bar always been used for clean in ancient sources? Well, here's Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, a renowned Tanaic. He's a Talmud writer, very early strain, an outstanding disciple of Rabbi Akiva, and he was a staunch critic of the Romans. Now, why did I put this up here? Because his name means Simon, son of Yochai. But wait a minute. Rabbi Singer just made the claim that bar doesn't mean son, but it's used for son all the time in ancient Jewish sources. Do we then assume that the ancient Jewish sources were Anglicans who were into replacement theology? Equal weights and measures. If bar doesn't mean son, then why do ancient sources use it as son? So it must be that it can mean son. But let's take a modern usage that every Jewish person knows. Now you will notice that I gave the URLs for this. One of those URLs is a Jewish source. Up there, you could take the URL down if you're fairly quick at writing. Check it out for your source. The other is Judaism 101, which is an online source about Jewish customs and Jewish law. They're translating the word bar mitzvah. Now, I had a bar mitzvah when I was 13 years old, and most Jewish men have had a bar mitzvah. What does the word bar, spelled the same way in Hebrew, mean in the phrase bar mitzvah? Well, it literally means son of the commandment. Bar being son, mitzvah is commandment. Now, this is straight out of Judaism 101. Are these guys replacement theologians from England? Because they're translating bar as son. But bar can't mean son. Bar doesn't mean son. It means pure. Really? Again, Rabbi Singer, I don't see you correcting Judaism 101 for using bar as son. I don't see you correcting this Jewish website and all these Jewish sages for using bar as son. Equal weights and measures. Does bar always not mean son? You're making the inference that bar does not mean son. John Williams came up and said bar nebas. Exactly so. Bar was used for son. Simon bar Jonah. So this claim is already not equal weights and measures, not applying the same standards to his arguments. And it's upsetting to me. I'm going to give you my heart tonight. It's upsetting to me that that was done to this poor pastor. Now, I'm sure that Rabbi Singer has a choice as to which videos he puts on YouTube, and he thought this was brilliant because someone not exposed to this would go ahead and be fooled. But I'm really concerned about the heart of this poor pastor, and I hope things got straightened out. But let's move a little further. Let's just go with the conclusion from these two things. Picking on the King James, although, I don't necessarily think the Bible came in the original King James English, and simply dismissing it as biased and it isn't sound reasoning. And bar does not always mean pure in Hebrew. And someone who knows Hebrew should know better than this. By the way, bar doesn't mean pure in Aramaic. And he's also ignoring the point that there are Aramaic words that were borrowed and brought into Hebrew. So he is misstating the argument from the standpoint of Hebrew, Aramaic loan words that are part of Hebrew. He's ignoring other Hebrew sources, and he's ignoring a modern phrase that's used in Jewish circles all the time. In fact, he's going to make a big point that everybody knows this. Well, everybody knows bar mitzvah means son of the commandment, and bar means son. The version that he's using is the 1914 Jewish Publication Society Tanakh. That's the version that he's actually using here. So let's examine the usage. Okay. Now this is the Jewish Publication 1917 Tanakh. Do homage in purity. See, do homage in purity, lest he be angry and ye perish in the way, when suddenly his wrath is kindled. Happy are all those who take refuge in him. The he in this version refers to God. Okay. So kiss is taken as homage. That's not so bad. Yeah, the same version in 1617, because someone asked 1617, is carried over into some latter editions of the JPS Tanakh. But I think he's referring back to the 1917 JPS because of what he flashed. A lot of them will keep the phrase as do homage in purity. Homage has to do with the act of kissing to show respect, not romantic kissing. And then in purity is the way bar is translated here. Okay, and so that's what the I shouldn't say 1611, 1911 JPS does, and that's where he's going. But let's examine this a little closer here. Okay, now I want you to take down this refrigerator magnet saying, I almost stuck it on the phrase. I even want to type it in later if you're here. Evidence, the suppression of evidence is evidence of suppression. That's a refrigerator magnet saying. The suppression of evidence is evidence of suppression. Okay? You cannot cherry pick the parts of an argument or the evidence for an argument that you like and discount the rest. So let's see if he's guilty of doing this. This is the JPS 1917 version. Let's see what it does with bar. And I'm just double checking my vowel pointings because they do change. Mabiri, uma, bar. And if I've got the vowel pointings right, bit, ni, uma, bar, nadarai. Now, notice the two words bar. They're spelled exactly the same way as Psalm 212 is. Those are the same Hebrew words in the same version that he's quoting to dismiss this pastor's understanding of the verse as kiss the son. Okay? How does the JPS version of the Tanakh translate bar in these other places? As son? Oh, everybody knows that bar means pure. Here's the verse up there in my 1917 JPS Tanakh. Well, everyone knows bar means pure, except the guys that translated it as pure in other verses, where they don't translate it as pure because they know that bar doesn't always mean pure. So the question is, why are they translating it as pure in Psalm 212 and then deliberately translating it as son in Proverbs? Ooh, that's mighty interesting. If everyone knows it only means pure, including the version, and everybody who knows Hebrew means it only means pure, and look at my version, apparently the individuals that did your translation from the Hebrew who know Hebrew know that bar doesn't always mean pure. In other words, the version he's using to prove that bar always means pure, and it means pure in Psalm 2:12, doesn't state bar as being pure in Proverbs 31:2. So his translation is inconsistent according to his argument and actually works against his argument in other places. Isn't that interesting? So apparently everyone who knows Hebrew knows bar doesn't even always mean pure and can mean son and does mean son, including the translators who translated the Bible from Hebrew in his version. Have you ever read it in Hebrew, Rabbi Singer? Maybe you should read Psalm 31:2 in Hebrew and understand that bar translates as son in places. Oh, but let's go further. Well, then why can bar be translated two different ways? Well, first of all, bar used in Psalm 2:12 can be a reference to the Aramaic word for son, which entered into Hebrew. And by the way, if you know Hebrew, you also should be acquainted with the fact that there are Aramaic words that are part of Hebrew. Go figure. But let's go further. David is writing Hebrew poetry. He's not writing a manual on how to fix a car engine. So bar, with the suffix bari, son, is from the idea of begatting, which has as its root bara, beit resh aleph. And so bar can come from bara and be a poetic play on the idea of begetting or bringing forth or birthing, as in a son, using the Aramaic word. In other words, David's being poetic. And someone put up, of course, it's translated, so I'll have to look at that, but they're using bar. What he is referring to for pure is that the root barar with a resh at the end, if you have certain forms of it, will drop the resh. Now, usually when you drop a Hebrew letter, you put a little dot in the middle of the letter. It's called a doubling dagesh. Now, that's a little fancy Hebrew, but Hebrew can do a shorthand thing where certain letters drop out. This is why some seminary students have trouble with Hebrew. And you put a doubling dagesh in. So you could have beit resh doubling dagesh if a letter's doubled. But here's the problem. Resh is one of the letters that can't take the doubling dot. When I was teaching my kids, we called them the Beged Kefet letters. They cannot take the doubling dot. So now when you write the word, you have to write beit resh, but there's no doubling dot signaling there's another resh there. So what we have is an issue of the text and the orthography and structure of Hebrew. Bar does not always mean pure. It often means son. It does mean son when used as a noun. David's doing a poetic play on words. John Williams is referring to some points of Hebrew grammar that I wouldn't mind looking at, but I just can't take the time at this particular second. So we'll double back to those. And I'll take a peek at them because they're moving a little quick here. And I have to deal with Kamatz Gadol and Kamatz. It's got some things there that I'll look at. So what we have here is one, bar as a noun is translated as son. But as a verb, it can take a form that might fool you. And so that's part of the problem. And that's why I'm going to move you to a different screen that's going to let you see this a little better. So I'm going to pull up this a little better and bring up the canvas. And hopefully you can see that canvas a little bit better. Now that canvas goes through this material for you. By the way, I feel really bad about the electronic postcards not working. And so for those who are in the upper tier in Patreon, what I've done is you will have access to all the infographics. I'm sorry, I just couldn't make the code work. If other people want the infographics, okay, because some of you guys support us through Chosen People, and some of you are just such wonderful people, I can't help myself. Please go ahead and email me at zionsbanner@gmail.com. I will give you the link to the infographics. This is all yours. But I wanted to give a reward, not a reward, a thank you. Reward sounds so wrong. A thank you to the folks that haven't been getting their electronic postcards because I just felt bad. I'm the type of person, if I don't make good on a promise, if I don't keep a I have to make good on my promises. That's the type of person I am. I really, really believe in loyalty and honesty. And so since I had to find a way to make good on that because my conscience is such that those are my values. Chesed is a Hebrew word I love, and I am a chesed believer. And that's covenant loyalty. And so I could not make good on the covenant that way. So the infographics will be available, but I don't want to freeze anybody out who's wonderful. And so if you email me, I will go to special trouble to give you that link. I say that because this is one of the graphics that you would have for your very own forever and ever, and you could look over it and make use of it. So he's got a bait with a doubling dot, Kametz Gadal, and he's referring to the voweling there and the way that ends up working. And John, I thank you that you're keeping up with the Hebrew. This basic thing here tells you basically the same thing that I was telling you. David's doing a play. This is a noun. This is what you kind of need to understand. Kiss forms the verb, okay? It can't be understood as do homage because the kissing the ring or the hand of a king, showing proper respect that way was an Eastern thing. And it can refer to that. I don't have a problem with the do homage part of this, okay? That's not problematic. The point is the kiss or do homage is a verb. Now in Hebrew, the basic sentence structure is usually verb, subject, object. Okay? Verb, subject, object. And so you have the verb and the subject is supplied by the form of the verb. And we're going to get into that. What you have here is a noun. You have a poetic play. You have a noun. We know the noun bar can be translated as son. We've proven that according to ancient sources. We've proven that according to the phrase bar mitzvah. We've proven that by the fact that the JPS Tanakh in two other places where it's a noun clearly translates bar as son. Does the JPS do homage and purity match the context? Now, folks, you look at the grammar, you look at the context, right? Now, in the JPS, I pointed out that him was God. Kiss, do homage and purity, lest he, God, be angry. We know that from the verses above, the way the JPS takes them. Okay? And I see a flow of the text that would indicate God there. Okay? But what is the context of Psalm 2:12? Well, there's a Talmudic reference to Psalm 2, 7 and 8 in Sukkah 52a, famous section dealing with Messiah ben Joseph. Now, we don't believe that there's a Messiah ben Joseph, but even if we did, it's also applied to Messiah ben David. Our rabbis taught the Blessed One, blessed be he, will say to Messiah, son of David, may he reveal himself speedily in our days. That's a, Jewish blessing there. Ask of me anything, and I will give it to you. As it is said, I will tell of the decree, etc. This day I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance. But when he will see that Messiah ben Joseph is slain, he will say, Lord of the universe, I ask only the gift of life. And as to life, he would answer him, your father David already prophesied concerning you, as it is said, he asked life of you, and you gave it to him, even length of days. Okay? Now, what I'm doing here, and this is Dr. Brown, is I'm pointing out that the context of this psalm is not simply worshiping God correctly or being respectful and doing homage to God and keeping his commandments. The context of this is messianic from start to finish. And so the JPS 1 ignores that the noun bar is translated as son and understood as son in the Hebrew, translated as son by them, no less. And it's ignoring the context that simply doing homage or talking about proper respectful worship is not the context of the psalm at all. It's messianic. Yes. John Williams asks if he's talking about Jesus. Yes. Remember that the Talmud had this problem with a dying Messiah and a reigning Messiah, and that's why you get the Ben Joseph, Ben David stuff. And we covered that in a previous broadcast as to why the two Messiah theory really doesn't work. Okay. So where does that take us? Okay. Well, first of all, the JPS translation and Rabbi Singer are both inconsistent in their translation of bar in Psalm 2. They're both incorrect. Okay? Because the JPS translates bar as a noun as son. And Rabbi Singer ought to know that. And Rabbi Singer knows that bar mitzvah means son of the commandment. But he isn't stating any of that information. Let's look at clip 2. Let me bring that up for you. Just take me a second to get to clip 2. And that should start up any minute.
We use these words every day here in conversational Hebrew. Ba means pure, clear. It's a simple thing. Nashku, let's look at that word. So the word nashku is a homonym. What does neshek mean? Neshika means a kiss. And what is neshek? It means to arm. So nashku bar, the whole context is about embracing purity. If you turn away from a life of purity, God's wrath will be, you will be at war with God. Arm yourself with purity, lest God be angry. Here's what our good friends in the King James did. You take out a mouse, you select in the words, arm yourself with purity. You have white letters on a blue background on your screen. You tap the delete key and they disappear, and then you type in the words, kiss the sun. And then you go even further. You make the sun into a capital S sun, when there's no such thing as a capital in the Hebrew language. Making sure that someone like you, from the other side of the world, who has a good heart, I don't know you, but I presume you're here in Eretz Yisrael, that's a very good sign. You come to this program, that's an amazing sign. That people like you with a really good heart read that, and they're not able to penetrate to the original. Don't you think it's axiomatic? I just want that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would want you to rather use the language from which he used to create the world, Psalm 33, verse 6. Mm-hmm. And when Christians say, and they mean it, because you have not heard me mischaracterize what Christians believe here tonight. When Christians say that they're Bible believers, what they're relying utterly on translators and the integrity of people they've never met. That's not the Word of God. Every translation is a commentary. It's treason. Because as it turns out, when you translate Hebrew into English, the languages are so different. It's not they're often referred to as different families of languages. It's different species. You need so many words have to be added in to the English just to make sense out of it. So every translation is a commentary. How long will you be here in Israel?
I've been here 2 weeks.
2 weeks. After the program, I'd love to give you my phone number. Maybe we could talk and study together. Because I confess this, all we're interested in doing is saying, what does the Holy Torah say really? What was conveyed? What are the words that God used? Not Jacobean English of the 17th century. That's not the word of Hashem. Jerome is not the word of Hashem. The Vulgate's not the word of Hashem. The Septuagint, an iteration of the church. I know you've been taught to believe that it's from Jews 2,200 years ago. It isn't. It's only right, of course you don't. It's only the original Hebrew. And what I would say to you, you're created in Tselem Elokim. You're created in the image of Hashem. There are many things you could have done here tonight in Yerushalayim. You could have gone down to the shuk with all the nice places, but you decided you wanted to hear Torah from a Jew, that he can explain what it is.
Okay, you're hearing Torah from a Jew. Just to kind of help you out with that, you're actually hearing Torah from a Jew. I'll let him finish up complimenting the guy while insulting him. Yeah, it's disgustingly slick, and that's what really hurts my feelings, and makes me really pity this because this poor pastor came in here with the best of intentions, lovingly asking a question, and then he meets somebody who's slowly sawing his leg off while complimenting him. It's just really, really bad news. First of all, you're hearing Torah from a Jew. Hey, I got news for you. You're hearing Torah from a Jew. 4 years of seminary Hebrew, grew up around it, learned a lot more at seminary than I necessarily did at Hebrew school, but that's the fault of Hebrew school, first of all. Second of all, Tovia used a English translation, the traitor. When he put it up there, did he put it up just in Hebrew? No, he used an English translation. In fact, when he did his cute little whiteout thing, did he do a Hebrew thing? No, he did an English thing. Well, wait, all translations are treason, right? Diverse weights are an abomination to the Lord, and dishonest scales are not good. Isn't that interesting? This is really slick. This is going to hurt people, and this is really bad. Now, I don't think Tovia means to be horrible in the sense that he thinks he's Saul of Tarsus and he's saving Judaism. But you can't save God's work by violating God's moral standards and God's integrity. In other words, you can't misrepresent God by using dishonest scales in order to honor God. Okay? You can't use improper Bible techniques in order to argue biblically. So let's talk about Nishka. Okay, let's talk about this acronym. By the way, it's an acronym? No. You don't find whole words as acronyms in the Old Testament very much. Okay? Brother Brian there is pulling out some nice Targum stuff, and I like that. I searched through my Targums, but I could not go ahead and do that. Let's talk about Nishkam, though. Let's get into some Hebrew again, because, you know, he wants us to get into Hebrew. It's perfectly correct to translate the word as kiss or do homage. Well, how do I know? Oh, let's pull up the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament by men who are also well-versed in Hebrew and can read it. Okay? Nasak is not an acronym. Nasak is a perfectly good Hebrew word used in the Tanakh. And he says that the acronym means arm yourself. So let's look at other places where this verb's used. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to go here, cut to this, make sure that I pull the right one up, okay? And I'm just making sure that I have not sock up here. Yes, there's not sock. You want to see where it is? Not sock bar, kiss, 3 places where it is used. Now, there is a homonym of this verb. We're going to deal with that. So he's taking a fact, but he isn't being totally genuous with the fact. Disingenuousness is wrong. Okay? Of the 3 places that it's used, okay, um, that's basically a canvas that shows that a related word can be pure. But I want to get back to knit sock. So if it changes real quick for a second, I'm sorry about that. This word is used in 3 places. Hey, Michael Williams is in the house. Well, you're going to enjoy the Hebrew part of this, Mike. Go back and listen to the rest of it. Nitzak is used in 3 places. So let's see if nitzak means arm. Okay, by looking at the verb. Now, again, if you want these canvases and you are not on Patreon supporting us, that's okay. I want to go ahead and bless the people who support us through Patreon, but I understand that some of you are wonderful to us in other ways. So, and someone's asking which Targum. And I will not deal with that right now. I will move on to the other places where this is used. So let me go back here to the other places where this is used. Now he says it means arm. Well, let's see. Let's check the other places, okay? And I'm trying to pull this up a little bit. I may like increase the size of this because it's a little hard for me to see the Hebrew. So I'm sorry if, you know, this gets a little smaller for you. It's going to get a little larger for a second. Sakni, Manosh. It's a little too small for me to read. It's almost like bifocal time. Actually, I have bifocals, but they're just not enough. The first word there is from the word nitzak. That's what you really need to know. So you're going to hear me read a little less Hebrew. Wow. Brother Brian, congrats. The Complete Jewish Study Bible does have some value to it, particularly in the Old Testament. I don't like what he does in Galatians and some other places, but it does have value to help with that, and I'm glad they do that to help with some references there. What you have, okay, is nitzak is an imperative. This is a different form of the same verb. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. Song of Songs 1:2 uses the same Hebrew word in a different form. Now, what you need to know is this translation, lest I commit treason, is from the Jewish publication Society Bible 1917. The same one that he used when he was being a trader and using an English translation, if I understood that correctly. Yes, it is good to know the original language, okay? It is really good to know the original language. But the point is not all Jews during the time of Jesus were fluent in Hebrew. When they came back from the Babylonian captivity, that's why you have the Targums. Not all of them were perfect in Hebrew. I'm not saying that they lost all Hebrew. I'm saying some of the fluency, some of the ability, wasn't there. And there were Greek-speaking Jews that read their Bible in Greek. Does he disallow the Septuagint? It'd be really curious to find out whether he disallows the Septuagint. His primacy of Hebrew, I love. By the way, Rashi said God created the word in world using, you know, when he spoke the words, they were Hebrew. I like that personally. But the point was that Genesis doesn't say that. So while that's personally very appealing to me, you can't prove it from the Tanakh. So he's making statements that aren't very Tanakh based. in order to make that pastor feel a little guilty. So let's put the word arm there, because that's what that word means, right? Let him arm me with the arms of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. Oh, that makes real sense, doesn't it? Same Hebrew word, different form. It means arm, doesn't it? It's a homonym. Okay? It's not a homonym. It's a verb in the sentence. The homonym, which we will discuss shortly, is not a verb. You know, for someone who knows Hebrew, Rabbi Singer should understand parts of speech. Okay? You need to understand the parts of speech. Verbs are action words or commands, or they can be used to indicate the state of something. Stative verbs. Nouns are person, places, or things. I remember conjunction, junction. Hey, Hebrew has the same parts of speech. Adjectives are what are used to describe nouns. And so he's using this homonym, but it's not the homonym being used in the verse. And it's not the homonym used in other places. Okay? Let's go to another place real quick. Genesis 17:26. Okay? V'yomer Eliv Yitzhak Av, I think that's a Harik, so I'm looking at it. Okay? Av Yiv Gamash Na U. I'm really having trouble with the kuf. Shika Li Beni. Okay? This is a discussion going where Isaac is talking to Esau. Well, Isaac is talking to his son. Okay? Because remember, Esau doesn't make it back. Okay? Come near and kiss me. So let's stick his version in here. Okay? Let's go ahead and stick some stuff in here and make this work. Let's stick the word arm in here, because that's what he says. Arm, like arm yourself. Come near to me and arm me, my son. Really? That really fits the context. Same word as used in Psalm 212. Does it mean kiss? Well, it does in Song of Songs. It does in Genesis 17:26. It's not the homonym. And it's not the homonym in 212. So let's find out more about this homonym. So I'm going to go back here in transition and pull this up for you so you can see it, okay? Now I've got to switch which canvas this is. Okay. Oops. Just got to get that up for you. It's going to switch through them real quick. I'm afraid I'm not showing this. Oh, there we go. Yes, I am. You should be able to see it better now. I really want to get it up there. Now, what you have here is Psalm 212, and then you have the one place where this is used as a homonym. Now, he brought it up. It's in Psalms also, okay? Where David talks about he who has a clean hands, okay? And see the word bar? And a pure heart. Uvar livav. Okay? Uvar livav. Sorry. There's no dagesh in the bait because of the conjunction in front of it. You don't need to know that. Okay? Now what you need to understand here, and he's going to refer to this psalm here. Okay? And he runs to this psalm 24:6 and says, well, look, clearly in Psalm 24:6, this means clean. We all know this means clean. It doesn't mean kiss, it means clean. Well, here's the problem, okay? The problem is the word here and the word here are a little different. And I'm really trying to pull this up, and I'm seeing it. And what should be talked about here is that the word used here, okay, which goes back up to this, and it's pointing kind of the wrong place here, is adjectival, which means it's describing a noun, a clean heart. Here, it's describing a nishkabar. It's a verb. It's in the imperative form. It's a command. Okay? So here you go. He's taking a word that's similar in Hebrew, which is an adjective, and he's comparing it to a verb that in other places is translated as kiss, and telling us that it doesn't mean kiss. Even though it does mean kiss, he's telling us it doesn't mean kiss, and it can't mean kiss. It's just that we don't know Hebrew. That's the problem. If you know Hebrew, you know that this is a verb. You know it's used in other places to refer to kiss. And the homonym, which is an adjective in the verse that you're using, is not the same word that's being used in Psalm 212 as a verb. So he again is not being right. He's not being correct. He is playing a game. One word is an adjective, the other is noun. They're certainly not the same word with the same meaning. So you can't make that argument. And that's why I put that up there, because he runs to Psalm 24:6, where David is using a homonym as an adjective that has a different origin than a Hebrew word in the imperative in Psalm 212, which is used in other places in the very translation that I'm sure he's using. So it's as though someone took white out. Let me see if I explain this. Took a similar word and then whited it out and then wrote that similar word in the English translation that he's using. Sound a little bit like what he's accusing the King James guys of doing? Ignoring that that same word is used to mean exactly what he says it doesn't mean in other places in the version he used to give us the English translation to start with. So let's kind of get towards the end of this thing. Now that we've got like a good feel for what Rabbi Singer has done, okay? Yeah, and let's go back to that verse. I'm going to go back to it real quick here, just to the beginning here, to the conclusion section. And hopefully you'll sing it in a second. It doesn't seem to be appearing. Diverse weights are an abomination to the Lord, and dishonest scales are not good. Out of the Jewish Tanakh, Proverbs 20:23, it's dishonest, and that craftiness is dishonesty. And so this poor man went home thinking that his King James had let him down, and he'd been let down a garden path because he didn't know the Hebrew, and he was just dumb and stupid, and he had trusted these horrible men that had deliberately tried to make something that was messianic and say things that it doesn't say. When in fact, when you look at the Hebrew, those words perfectly say what they're saying. Bar can mean son and does in other places when used as a noun, exactly the way it's being used in Psalm 212. Kiss in the I'm going to see if this comes back or not. In the meantime, I'm going to start taking some questions if I can. Okay, I think I may be back. I'm kind of hoping that this caught again. There we go. Good, I'm back. I know how to fix it now. Well, that's good. It was configuration problem. Okay. So, I think this is really problematic stuff, and I'm just grieving for this poor pastor. Is it good to know the original languages? Yeah, because you can diffuse this sort of stuff. Um, is it disingenuous and really a violation of God's character to go ahead and do this? Yeah, I think really it is. Now, he thinks he's doing a good thing, but he's doing a terribly bad thing. And so this is really disconcerting. And so this grieves my heart when I look at these and I see the word being used in other places in the Hebrew, and it's being made out as though it isn't so, when clearly it is perfectly acceptable to go ahead and go ahead and have this read exactly as it reads. So he grieves me to a great deal in doing that, and I'm terribly disappointed with this whole thing and with what he's doing here. But you guys now know better, and hopefully I put forth some of the inconsistencies and some of the unequal weights and measures that he's using. Uh, Post the link on his site or back on some of these videos or what have you. But this is really bad stuff, and he's trying to, what he thinks he's trying to do is uh, protect biblical faith, but what he's really doing is not being honest, and really sort of in his attempts to honor God, he is really dishonoring God in playing those sorts of games and cherry picking his information, not telling this pastor that why it has to not mean what it means in other places as a noun when it's being used as a noun here, and why the verb, which is translated clearly as kiss in other places, can't mean kiss in that psalm, and why the psalm is can't be saying what it's saying about Messiah when it's messianic. He claims the psalm is about honoring God, and it's about worship and doing right honor to God. That's not what it's about. Someone asked a really good question. I'm going to take it. Why would he try to trick the pastor? Because he has a real hatred for who Jesus really is. In other words, the idea that Jesus is the Messiah really bothers him, and he believes that the Trinity is a violation of the Echad of God in the Shema, rather than seeing it as what clearly is pointed out. And I've named the author several times, Daniel Bayarin, as a acceptable understanding in the Second Temple period. He wants to elevate the rabbis and elevate rabbinical Judaism at the expense of being honest, and that's why he wants to trick this pastor. And really, he's very into proselytizing even Gentiles away from any sort of belief in Jesus. And it's horrible and it's shameful, and his soul needs saving really bad. But this dishonesty in conveying things like this and kind of spinning it like a spin doctor instead of doing that work and that research is really a shame. I am so thrilled to have some other people in the room. It is a shame, and it grieves me. But what really grieves me is that the soul of this pastor and other believers who might tune into this um, are in danger of having their faith shipwrecked. Now, I think God can keep us. Don't get me wrong here. But could this do some damage and set somebody on a wrong path? I think it could do some damage. It could undermine And so it's a really, really sad, horrible thing. Michael Williams is correct in pointing out Simon Bar Jonah. That was pointed out earlier. And so I felt we needed to deal with this. I needed to arm you, and hopefully this material will get out. We picked up some subscribers and we dropped 2. By the way, we have some newbies in the room. Please, if you've not hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, please. And tell others and get them involved in hitting the subscribe button. Maybe if this information gets out there, somehow it'll get back to this poor pastor. Maybe it'll get back there without this information from the broadcast. But wouldn't it be nice if this broadcast was used to help bolster his faith or the faith of others who see this video? Well, that's where we are for tonight. I am so thrilled with some new visitors. I'm always thrilled with you guys. You guys are a great community. I just want to make us bigger. I hope sometime to go ahead and improve the high speed here so we don't have glitches like that. And that's part of what Patreon's for. So that's part of a value that I want to go ahead and do to improve things. I just want to give Steve a thanks. Steve, thank you for the comment. I love to get into Hebrew. We've got we're going to be dealing in the Matthew tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be in the book of Matthew, Matthew through Jewish eyes. That's the second broadcast, is more of a Bible study. And then check, I'll be setting up topics and things. I'm going to try to do that ahead of time to let you guys know. So, well, I think that's about it. Now, John chimed in with a bunch of Hebrew points. He was giving you the names of some of the Hebrew vowels. He was actually typing using his Hebrew keyboard. I'm not that quick because I have to switch languages. But he was pointing out some things related to the structure of Hebrew, Kama Tataf, and some of those things. He's getting you pretty far in. You start dealing with that, you're dealing with like Hebrew 101, a little deeper when you start talking about hardening dots dropping off and Beged Kefet letters and imperative forms of how you form the imperative in Hebrew, noun, subject, adjective agreement, verb, subject agreement. But those are good comments for the most part. I'm not always sure how they fit into the discussion because he was giving you a lot of grammar information, but those are up there. And I thank John for always trying to add just a little bit more and kind of keep me on my toes and up my game. It's very true that yeah. Yeah, the Hebrew keyboard is, in modern Hebrew, some of that stuff's understood. I have a program called Davka, which lets me write in Hebrew. The Greek keyboard in Windows works better than the Hebrew keyboard. Okay, so so that's the difference. You're not going to find the vowel markings. That's why I pull them in through Davka. Sometimes, and I think I can do it, my Windows keyboard, I'm bringing it up now. I'm going to go to the Hebrew for just a second and see if I can do a touchboard for a second, just to, I can't screenshot this. But sometimes what you can do is you can use your shift key to bring the vowel pointings up. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to change the language just to see if the shift key works. And no, I can't do it. So, Davka helps me with that. So, Davka is a couple bucks, but it lets you do that. I do enough in Hebrew that Davka is really worthwhile for me to have. Brother Brian says, I need to get back to learning Hebrew. It's a wonderful thing. Some people feel it's harder than Greek. The funny thing was, Greek seemed easier until I went back to Hebrew, and then some of the stuff I had heard when I was a kid all kind of fit together and made sense, but that's me. Um, Corinth's, it's a disadvantage using the Hebrew keyboard. It is, but modern Hebrew doesn't put the pointings in anyway, and they were understood without the pointings at one time. So Corinth's, don't feel bad. Use your Hebrew keyboard when you can, and just use the consonantal forms. It's something. Um, Steve, it is always great to have you on board. Sweet Tea, I'm glad you were here tonight. I know it's probably getting a little long. We need to remember, if Sweet Tea's still here, uh, I'm going to pray for Sweet Tea. You indicated that uh, that Sweet Tea's had some. She indicated that there have been, a few reoccurring health things. It's for her to explain. I'm just going to just generally pray um, because I don't want to betray confidences or say things that I'm not supposed to, but God knows it all. And so I know the general area, and I know we want him to undertake for this sister. So I'm going to close in prayer and just pray for Sweet Tea. Um, and I don't know if Sweet Tea's registered. I don't know if you're registered for the conference or not, but I advertise the conference, Doctrine for the Block. I will be there. So let me close in prayer for Sweet Tea. I also go ahead and just do that. Our Father, our King, thank you. We follow the one you sent. Jesus said he was sent by the Father. He was predicted. The New Testament writers didn't do anything with the Old Testament that was not perfectly understandable to a Jewish audience at that time. They were making arguments. They weren't trying to test their Bible knowledge and the Bible knowledge of their audience. And we follow the one who is the Son of Righteousness, which will one day arise for all the world in creation with healing in his wings. But he can heal right now, and he can help us through the things that we're going through. And he who overcame the world and has all authority in heaven and earth can step in into our problems. We don't know, Lord, what you're doing through this situation, but we know that this is a dear sister, and we ask that you would undertake for her. We don't even know what form you want to do that through, but we're asking on her behalf because we are one body. We are fellow workers together in your kingdom. And so we care about each other, and we are family. We have you as our Father if we know Jesus. For to those who received him and to those who believed upon his name, he gave the right to be sons of God. And so we're asking that you might undertake for our dear sister, Sweet Tea. I know there are other prayer requests out there. I'm so blessed by everyone's support. I pray that you'd be with the needs that they might have that I don't even know about. I do think of Larry. I'm teaching his Bible class now, and he's just undergone surgery for pancreatic cancer. And I just want to take a second to remember him. The folks in the community don't know him, but cancer is a big deal. So I just want to go ahead and do that. Brother Brian, thank you so much for being here. My eyes are open, so I must have stopped praying because we do that with our eyes closed, right? Actually, as a Jewish person, I learned to pray with my eyes open while staring at the prayer book. God bless you for being here, Brother Brian. There have been a few other visitors. I don't want to neglect anyone. So if I didn't say your name, it's my 57-year-old brain. Looks like, and also it's my screen. Javon, thank you so much. And Javon may also be Jerome, or Jerome may be someone else. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to say goodnight now. We've had a great time. Tomorrow, Matthew through Jewish eyes. Come and join us, 7 p.m. Same YouTube same YouTube channel, same time. God bless and thank you so much for being here. I continue to learn how to do things better, and you continue to give me the opportunity. Thank you so much. Oh, and there's another person here. I just want to quickly. Jackson, I missed the first part. I am going to say goodnight now, though. Good night, all. And God bless. Huh, I have the keyboard in the wrong language. There's Hebrew. Now let's get English.